And you're already starting to see the streets in New York start to fill back up. You wonder when some of these apartment buildings are going to start to fill back up, Jonathan. We saw a lot of discounts. We saw a lot of perks being offered by landlords over the past year to lure people into their buildings here. When do we start to see some of those landlords have enough power, enough pricing power to roll back, to rescind some of those offers?
I still think we're looking at another year or two for concessions to melt away. I think the market is still highly dependent on it, but nowhere near what it was. And we've been seeing concession use decline since January when it was at its peak. What thing that's been the most incredible turnaround in terms of a sentiment indicator for renting is that we've been seeing lease terms, the length of lease that tenants are committing to, expand sharply over the last couple of months, which suggests that there's a perception that rents aren't going to continue their precipitous decline, and we are seeing stability in rents. I think the tenants are actually showing that in their actions right now.
It's what we're seeing with regards to availability and pricing. Is there a marketable difference between what we're seeing in sort of, I guess, the more normal part of the market, meaning, what people like me can afford, and the really higher end of the market that, of course, had been a big driver for real estate prior to the pandemic?
Yeah, so essentially, prior to COVID, in the rental market itself, the high end was weak, and post-COVID lockdown, essentially, we're seeing an inversion of that. That the upper end of the market is actually much stronger. And in fact, the top 10% of the market, like Manhattan, is the only segment that saw actual rent price growth. Every other sector, the lower you went in price, the larger the decline, largely mirroring what has happened with unemployment has been heavily weighted against lower wage earners, and that's being reflected in the rental market.
John, one final question, the money question. We saw everybody dash to the suburbs. They dashed to rural America. Do they turn around and come back to the cities?
Uh, I don't think so. Maybe to a certain degree, we have seen that in the past, like after 9/11, there was a
Yep.
3-year return. So that's certainly possible. The ability to remote work is something that hasn't been seen before at this scale. And I think that's still in the mix in terms of how quickly people move back.